Sagittarius. What's coming is unprecedented. God sees you and delivers divine prosperity. Sagittarius, if you're reading this, pause for a moment. Breathe. Something important is coming. Not from the outside world, but from the sacred space within your soul. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm simply here to remind you of what you've always known deep down. That your story is not over, but a chapter is. You carry fire in your spirit and wisdom in your silence. And yet, even the boldest souls must sometimes return to the place where it all began. Not to stay, but to release what was never theirs to carry. In the next few minutes, you may feel something stir inside you. A memory, a name, a voice from a place you thought you'd left behind. This is not a coincidence. It's a whisper from the universe, a cosmic invitation to free yourself from a past that no longer holds your truth. And before we begin, I ask only one thing. If your heart opens, let it. If tears come, welcome them. And if this message reaches you, please like, share, and subscribe. Not for us, but so more souls like yours can find the light when they need it most. Now, Sagittarius, let's step together into what may be the most sacred message your soul has been waiting to hear. Gate 1. The call that is not just a call, a crossroad between lifetimes. Sagittarius, there are moments in life that don't feel like ordinary days. They arrive quietly, unexpectedly. Not with thunder, but with a silent knock at the door of your soul. And when you answer, you know. This isn't just another call. It's a moment the universe has chosen to give you the power to set yourself free. There's a voice, maybe from a person you loved once. Deeply, innocently, before life hardened your softest parts. They left you not just physically but emotionally. Left behind were pieces of you scattered across years you'll never get back. And now, you hear they are running out of time, maybe they only have 48 hours left. You want to hang up. You want to ignore it. But something inside you won't let you. Because Sagittarius, your heart, as wild and untamed as it is, still remembers. Still wonders. Did they ever really love me? Or was I just the one who loved more? Imagine this. A woman sitting in her sunlit kitchen, holding her phone with trembling fingers. 10 years ago, her husband walked out after a betrayal that shattered her. She rebuilt her life slowly with grit and grace. Now he's calling from a hospice bed. His voice no longer full of pride but heavy with tears. I don't deserve it, he whispers, but I need to say it. I'm sorry. This isn't about the words. It's about what your soul chooses to do when confronted with one last chance to close a karmic door. And maybe it's not even someone who hurt you. Maybe it's someone you cut off. A parent you stopped calling because every conversation was a wound, or a best friend who ghosted you when you needed them most. And now they are reaching out, not to pull you back, but to leave in peace. This, Sagittarius, is not a call for reconciliation. It's a moment of sacred release. You don't have to go back. You don't have to pretend nothing happened. You don't even have to respond. But if your heart has been whispering for closure, if your dreams have felt haunted, if your body reacts to their name like it remembers something your mind has tried to forget, this is the soul's signal. The intersection of past and future, of what was and what could now be. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is fire. The kind of fire that doesn't burn down, it burns through. Through shame, through pain, through karmic contracts you never signed but were born into. And Sagittarius, you were never meant to carry all this forever. You are a traveler, a seeker, a soul that grows wings from every scar. This moment, this call, may break you open, but only to show you how much you've already healed. So when the call comes, literally or energetically, remember, you don't owe them your voice. You owe yourself peace. You are standing not at the edge of heartbreak, but the beginning of liberation. Gate 2. Releasing the karmic weight. How your soul sheds its past to walk freely again. Sagittarius, what if I told you that the pain you've been carrying, the ache you can't quite name, the wound that flares up in quiet moments, isn't just emotional residue but karmic weight? And what if I told you that you're not just healing for yourself but for generations before you? The fire in your spirit was never meant to be contained in grief. And yet life has taught you how to wear armor. Not because you love battle, but because you've known too many silent wars. The kind where people walk away without explanation. The kind where the person who once said, "forever," vanishes before the ink on that promise dries. Let me tell you a story, not from mythology but from the real world. There was a man named Elias, a Sagittarius like you. A devoted son. He hadn't spoken to his mother in 8 years after a falling out that cut deep, one where he felt unseen, unheard, and unprotected. He buried his pain under success, under adventure, under new beginnings. But one day a nurse called. His mother was in the final stages of life and had asked to see him. He hesitated. He wept. Then he went. She didn't apologize with eloquence. She simply looked at him and said, "I know I failed you, but I never stopped loving you." That sentence, though late, changed something. Elias didn't forget the pain, but for the first time in years he no longer needed to carry it. That was the karmic weightlifting, not because someone else said the right words, but because his soul was ready to let go of needing them. Sagittarius, you are standing in that same threshold. And no matter how it arrives, through a literal phone call, an unexpected message, a vivid dream, or even just a feeling that stirs your soul, the moment is coming where you'll be asked to choose. Continue carrying the pain, or place it gently on the altar of the past, and walk forward with nothing on your back but your own light. This doesn't mean you forgive and forget. This doesn't mean you accept someone back into your life who was careless with your heart. It means you finally understand that they don't have the power to define your future. That anger? It's heavy. That longing for justice? It's exhausting. But your soul didn't come here to stay stuck. Came here to ascend. Another example. A woman named Marin, a Sagittarius healer, told me once that she used to dream of the man who ghosted her for years. He would appear in visions, sometimes sick, sometimes silent, always watching her from afar. "Why won't he leave me alone?" she asked. The truth? Her energy was still tied to him through unresolved pain. She wrote a letter never sent that said, "I no longer hold space for your silence. I no longer live waiting for the closure you could never give me. I release you. I release myself." The dream stopped. Her spirit quieted. That's what karmic release looks like: subtle, powerful, final. Sagittarius, you are the sign of expansion, truth, and freedom. You are not meant to dwell in what was. You are meant to become what can be. But first, you must lay down what isn't yours to carry anymore. So if your heart has been racing without reason, if old names suddenly return to your thoughts, if you've been crying without knowing why, know this: your soul is shedding its old skin. You are rising. This isn't the breakdown. This is the breaking open. Gate 3. When healing becomes a gateway, the love that awaits you on the other side. Sagittarius, if you've made it this far, it's because your soul is ready. Ready to experience not just closure but reopening, a different kind. Not to pain but to the possibility of something far more profound. Love that doesn't wound but witnesses. Not love that makes you question your worth, but love that becomes the mirror of your truth. You see, we often speak of healing as an ending. The chapter where we walk away from toxic connections, unresolved wounds, broken dreams. But what no one tells you is that healing is also the beginning of a breathtaking new dimension. One where love flows without guilt, connection forms without conditions, and you no longer feel the need to shrink to be accepted. And Sagittarius, you are finally stepping into that dimension. Let me paint you a picture. After Elias, the man I mentioned in Gate 2, released the bitterness he had carried for years, he found himself standing in line at a bookstore. A woman dropped her journal beside him. He picked it up. Her eyes met his. And for the first time in a long while, someone looked at him without expectation. Just recognition. She didn't know his pain. She didn't need to. She simply said, "Thank you," and smiled like springtime. He would tell me later, "I didn't fall in love that day. I remembered what love feels like. That it's safe. That it can arrive quietly." Sagittarius, your love story is being rewritten. But not by another person. By you. You've crossed rivers of regret. Climbed cliffs of confusion. You've questioned whether you were too intense, too emotional, too willing to give. But those were never flaws. They were simply signs of your sacred capacity to feel deeply. A superpower the world has tried to tame, but which you are finally learning to honor. Let's be clear. True love is not loud. It's not grand gestures or adrenaline highs. It's a presence, calm, grounded, joyful. It's the kind of love where you don't have to ask, "Am I too much?" Because they'll say, "You're exactly what I've prayed for." And it's coming, Sagittarius. But only because you earned it. Not through perfection, but through the way you refuse to let pain harden your heart. through how you still chose to show up. For yourself, for your dreams, for your peace, even when others gave up. Real love is not in the apology they never gave you. It's not in their final breath or desperate call. It's not in the old flame that flares just as you're about to move on. It's in the stranger who sees your scars and still smiles. It's in the friend who listens without fixing. It's in the way you laugh again without guilt. It's in you, as you become your safest home. A woman named Juliet, another Sagittarius spirit I worked with, once told me, "I used to think closure meant hearing them say sorry. But now I realize, closure was when I stopped needing it." When she met the man who would become her soulmate, he didn't try to fix her. He never asked her why she was guarded. He simply said, "You don't have to explain your silence. I see your light." That, dear Sagittarius, is what the next chapter holds. Not healing through someone else's redemption, but receiving love because you finally gave it to yourself first. But, and this is vital, love will test your readiness. There may come a message, a memory, a moment that shakes your balance again. Not to undo your healing, but to see if you truly believe, "I no longer stay where I must shrink to be seen." If someone returns whispering, "I've changed," ask yourself, do I need their change, or have I already chosen my own path? Because your worth is not up for negotiation. Not anymore. In this gate, you are not just letting go. You are becoming the magnet for aligned love, soulful partnership, divine reunion. Not just with another, but with your truest self. You will notice the shift. You will feel at ease in rooms that once drained you. Your body will soften around people who feel safe. You will stop over-explaining, over-performing, over-correcting. You will speak and your voice won't tremble anymore. And Sagittarius, the world will meet this version of you with wonder. They will say, "You glow differently." They will ask, "What changed?" You will smile and say, "I came home to myself." But there's more, because love won't be the only reward. Purpose will arrive. Synchronicities will surge. The career door you've long dreamed of will swing open. Relationships you thought were gone forever may resurface only to be completed. Fully, peacefully, without karmic ties. This is what healing opens. Not just new chapters, but entire new realms. But don't rush. Don't chase. Let love come gently. It may show up as a phone call, a book in a cafe, a stranger who speaks to you as if they've known your soul for lifetimes. And you'll know, not because your heart races, but because it rests. You won't need to perform. You won't need to question. You will simply be, and they will simply stay. Because the kind of love that is destined doesn't knock hard. It flows like a river finding the ocean, inevitable, calm, free. And you, Sagittarius, are finally ready. You are the fire that refused to burn others just to stay warm. You are the light that no darkness could extinguish. You are the teacher, the traveler, the sacred soul that now becomes the lover. Not in desperation, but in divine alignment. So when it arrives, let it. When it's soft, trust it. When it mirrors your worth, receive it fully. You've carried the burden. Now carry the blessing. And when someone says, "I see you," smile and say, "I've waited a lifetime for that." Conclusion, you are always the light at the end. Sagittarius, as this journey draws to a close, let's take a sacred breath together. Not to end anything, but to honor everything you've just remembered. You began this message with a call, one that may never arrive through a phone, but always arrives through feeling. A whisper from the soul of someone you once loved, or once hurt you. A final echo that says, "I'm sorry." But this message, dear Sagittarius, was never about them. It was about you. You who carried more than your share of silence. You who smiled even when your heart broke behind closed doors. You who waited for closure that never came, and finally decided to give it to yourself. That's the moment you shifted timelines. That's the moment your soul said, "I release the weight. I choose the light." Because what lives ahead of you is not just peace, it's power. The kind of power that no apology can give you, and no betrayal can take away. The power of someone who faced their past, and didn't flinch. Now the universe opens a door. Behind it, love without conditions, purpose without pain, joy that doesn't ask for sacrifice. But this door won't open with noise. It opens with stillness. It opens when you whisper, "I'm ready." Sagittarius, you are ready. Ready to be seen, Not just as a survivor but as a soul reborn. Ready to stop asking, was I enough? And start declaring, I am divine. Ready to meet love not as someone who was broken, but as someone who chose to rise. So, here's what I invite you to do now. Close your eyes and speak aloud. I release what hurt me. I receive what heals me. Say it again. This time feel it in your bones. And then walk on. Let them go. Let the old stories go. Let the timelines collapse where you were waiting to be chosen. You've already been chosen by the universe, by life, by the new version of you that is waiting just on the other side of this moment. So leave this video not with heaviness, but with the knowing. You didn't need the apology. You didn't need the return. You only needed to remember. You were always the light at the end of the story.